Okay, folks, how are we? So, what an action-packed week. Bitcoin's become a stable coin at 16.8. What's happening with the SP 500? What is happening with the markets? We've had a very action-packed 2022. What's going to be happening with Bitcoin and the stock market in 2023? Okay, here we go. This is Pablo once again coming to you from how about Bahamas this time? We're at Bahamas, right, with SBF for his trial, eh? Now, first of all, let's do a recap of what happened in 2022. So basically, at the start of 2022, basically the SP 500 topped, and I was basically saying, if you remember that, the Fed is going to be increasing interest rates, and we're really worried that the stock market is probably more going down than going up, even though nobody can tell for sure. Now, if you remember, there were a lot of voices saying that at the start of the year that usually when the Fed starts hiking rates, markets actually go up, right? SP 500 actually goes up, which is true traditionally. And that means Bitcoin could take a dip but then go up. That's what a lot of people were saying. But if you remember, what I was saying at the start of the year was that I think this time is different. This time is different because the Fed are going to cut rates, are going to hike rates like there's no tomorrow, right? It's basically the worst bout of inflation we've seen in at least 40 years. And I was pessimistic on the market, although I didn't know exactly, how low it could go. I just thought we're probably, more likely to get into a bear market. For Bitcoin, I was obviously a lot more certain. If people are watching this from my Discord, they know what I said, and I put that on Twitter as well. For Bitcoin, I clearly said at the start, about November last year. This is a weekly chart. I said we're going to swing for the first half of 2022. We're going to swing between 30k to 50k. 60% chance it's going to swing between 30k and 50k. And then with a 40% chance it'll end up below 30. And by June, right, we ended up around 27k area. Whereas for most of 2022, first half, it was swinging between 30 to 50. So it was kind of spot on in my books. And then, of course, that massive 20k support area has been hit. That has been my target for quite a while. It's true that, I predicted Bitcoin to go to 20k around here. It didn't happen. We had the bounce up. Fed didn't hike back then. I thought the Fed would hike, right, would tighten, and now they admit, and everybody knows that was a monumental mistake by the Federal Reserve. And now we know why. If it turned down here and went down to 20, the prediction would have still been good. But now we know why, Bitcoin actually kept on pumping up to about 69k. It was because Sam Bankman-Fried had to pump his Solana bag. All those degens had to pump it one more time. So, of course, now we know. Well, my thesis on Bitcoin was quite simple from day one. And basically what I said was, look, the Federal Reserve are in a bind. This entire bull run on Bitcoin and crypto, starting from 2009, 2010, was a massive bull run, and it was all pumped by the Federal Reserve, right? I've shown many charts of how it's correlated to basically when the Fed was printing money. And now is the one time the Fed cannot print money and cannot come to save the markets. Why is that? Because we have inflation that just won't go away. I mean, yes, inflation's come down from 9.1% to about 7.5% or something now, and I do think it'll continue to go down, but chances are it's not going to go down to 2%. Until it goes anywhere near 2%, the Federal Reserve is probably still going to keep on tightening rates. So in general, how did we do for the year 2022? Well, for Bitcoin, basically, it was difficult calling the exact turning points, but roughly it came pretty much according to plan, bounced between 30 to 50, and then broke below 30, and then hit 20k, and then I said 12 to 15k, and we've now hit 15k, with probably lower to come in 2023. And for the SP 500, basically, I was expecting it mainly to go down, so it has traveled down pretty much in this downward channel. And basically, I said, oh look, there will be a big bounce somewhere in there, right? Because inflation has peaked. I was calling it for it around somewhere around here, right? When inflation actually peaked around here, right? And so we've seen inflation go down from 9.1 to about 7.7, and we've had a couple of big bounces. It's difficult to get those big bounces right, but however, it's not difficult to see that my main thesis was that SP 500 was headed down. So I pretty much got out of stocks and didn't put much in unless I saw something very, very special. So overall, what is the situation going into 2023? Okay, rather than looking at very specific situation of where each coin or each stock is going, I'll try to give everyone a general idea of where I think things are going. So we have a general idea of where the market is headed. Okay, let's have a look. What I like to show you guys is this. This is a chart of the ASX 200. So this is from, the year 19. This is from 1993, all the way from 1993. This is the Australian ASX 200. If we plot that against SP 500, right, SPX. By the way, actually, put it on the same scale. We'll put it on the same scale. The reason I want to show this is, and for people who are interested in Bitcoin as well, and crypto as well, because you can see that basically you need Bitcoin to be you need the stock market to be pumping for Bitcoin to be pumping. I think we've already learned that by now. I think we can already see by now that if the stock market isn't pumping, then it's very hard to for Bitcoin and crypto to pump. So let's have a look at this. We can see from here from 2003, from 1993, right, to about 2009, right? That's when the GFC happened, to 2009. The gold line and this chart here, this green red line. So the SP 500, that's the SP 500, the gold line, and the Australian ASX 200, they've kind of performed in a similar fashion. They both went up about 300% at its peak, right? Even the ups and downs were, in a similar cycle, and it came down and crashed and bottomed around March 2009, right? So they were still kind of step for step. And then, so that's 16 years from 93. That's as far as my chart goes back. I mean, could be even longer than that. For those 16 years, they've been going sort of step for step, right, until 2009. But then for the next 13 years, look what happened. Look what happened, right? This is the March 2009 bottom. This was the top. This is the Aussie ASX 200. This is the SP 500, right? So when you look at that and you say, well, do you think it's just because the American economy outperformed Australia, outperformed China, outperformed, say, Canada, everybody by this much because the American economy is this miracle? Or do you think it's because the Federal Reserve pumped this with zero interest rates? Especially after this massive run-up, right here, is down in 2 years because of the COVID pandemic, right? And we're still way above where we were before COVID hit. Even before COVID hit, even here, this gap here, you could say is probably mostly due to Fed pump. Well, why didn't the Australian index pump, for example? Well, pretty simple, because Australia didn't push its interest rates down to zero. That's where the US had it. Australia did not. So that's why the Australian stock market stayed relatively, relatively sane, whereas the US stock market has just gone into a major run. So another example I'd like to show you guys is basically okay. So my theory basically is that going forward, markets do not go up all in one direction. It does not just go up like keep on rising forever, right? It doesn't just keep going up forever. It basically will have bull runs for 15, 16 years, and then go sideways, and then bear runs for a while. So let us have a look at the SP 500 history, because we're trying to arrive at an idea of where SP 500 and also SPX, and also where Bitcoin and crypto can go in 2023. So let's have a look at history. So this is SPX from 19. Okay, here we go. Let's have a look, since we've got data from around. And by the way, this is going to out to my Discord first, and then afterwards we'll put it into public domain, so everyone can watch it on YouTube or whatever. In about 2 days after my Discord sees it. Okay, so for example, we've had. Let's just start from 1964. So starting from 1964, we've had the stock market essentially goes sideways. Come on. Gee. Am I getting bad reception here because I'm on an island? Hold on 1 second. Okay, so we're going to have a look at history of SP 500 so it can inform us where the market is going in the future. So we can see here was a big bull run right after 1942. US enters war, bombing of Pearl Harbor, and we had a massive run, right? Massive run. Well, part of that was because US money printing, because, like when you go into a war, you print money to fund the war. So the post-war rebuild, that was also a lot of printing money, topped out around 66. And then Vietnam started, and then so you can see here it was a bull run from, say, around 42 to 66, shall we say. 66. And that was essentially a 22-year bull run. And then basically, you notice once in 63, US came into, let me shut this thing off. SP 500 came to about 70 points, right? 70. It was pretty low back then, wasn't it? And then it still didn't get out till about 1974. So that's what? That's 11 years. If you include that, that's like 12 years. It hanged around 70. So essentially for this entire period between 62 to about 80, those 18 years, it was basically SP 500 was in between this range, right? Well, you could say it's more like 17 years. SP 500 has been in between this range, which is essentially between 106 to 69, right? It's basically spent 17 years in a range. So SP 500, US stock market doesn't always go up. What does that tell you about Bitcoin? And then, wow, what a run. By the way, the reason why I'm looking at this period is because that's when stagflation happened, right? The oil embargo in the Middle East, a war that's causing the oil embargo, that's causing, inflation to basically spike. Does that sound similar? Yeah, that's why. And of course, stagflation sounds similar to what's happening today, right? History never repeats exactly, but it's similar enough to make us take notice. And then, by 1980, Volcker hiked rates like crazy and killed inflation. So finally, U.S. market was able to take off, retest, boom, and just take off to 1987, right? And look at that massive run from, from 100, right, to 300 something, 3x in a matter of 7 years. That's the index we're talking about. And then, whoa, look at that, kept on running. Look at this, right? 97, 98. Wow. And hit a top around 2000. So this was a dot-com crash. Boom. So again, we've had from 82 to 2000, another 18 years. Another 18 years of massive expansion. 18 years massive expansion. Hits a top around 2000, right? Year 2000 dot-com bubble. And then what happens? Look at this. Between 2000 and 2009, spends those 9 years going sideways, right? Going sideways. In fact, we could say that it kind of started between 97 to about, say, 2013, which is 16 years. For those 16 years is basically in this sideways range, right, until it left. And then 2009, and look at the massive run we've had here, right? Let's put it into log. 2009, and we've had this massive run. Now, it is possible. One of the scenarios we have to look at is that UX could pull back SP 500 to trend, to basically the trend line, which is just below 3,000 on the SP 500, and then bounce for the next number of years. It could do one more push up, right? Like a massive another bull run for 2 or 3 years, and then that's the top, and then basically go sideways. We don't know for sure which it's going to be, but we have to be prepared that this could be it. Because we've seen that it goes into a range sometimes, and then does these crazy runs. It is possible it might stop somewhere around here, right, and then bounce up for one more crazy run. It all depends on what the Federal Reserve does, and then either way, it's either going to go sideways here now, or one more pump and then sideways, or even a bad bear market. It all depends on what the Federal Reserve does. So for the US, I am careful, because if we just look at, since the stock market, we don't look at the log chart. So just look at this. Where does that look like is headed? Right. You would think it comes back to about 3,400, 3,400-ish, at least, right, to get back to well, that's not even a trend line, to the previous pre-COVID highs. Most likely just below 3,000, around 2,900, 2,800 area, and then we do some bouncing along there. I mean, it's just, look at this run. There's even some people saying it could come back to base, which is around 1,600. I'm not necessarily in that camp. I think it all depends on what the Federal Reserve does. I think this 2,900 target is very likely over the next year or year and a half. So what does that mean for Bitcoin? What does that tell you for Bitcoin? Now, basically, let's have a look at Bitcoin. The reason why we look at the SP 500 is because Bitcoin doesn't have that long of a history to look at. But if we look at Bitcoin, we'll put it on a log chart, we can see some major trend lines has been broken. Even though it's been broken, it can still keep on going up. This major block trend line has also been broken, but it is possible it takes a dip and keep going up. So the point is, if we put it on a non-log chart, this is Bitcoin. It's basically had this massive bull run because, the Fed came from like near zero, because the Fed was, printing a lot of money, right? And now basically it's come back to the previous all-time high, around 18,000, the high of the 2017 bull market, right? Broke down from there. In my opinion, it's doing a retest, and then we head down and find at least one more level down, which is around 12K. And then see what the Fed does around there. And then maybe it bottoms out, maybe goes for one more leg down. That will take us sub 10K, even 6K is possible. So Some crazy times coming up. Let's see where the Federal Reserve, takes us. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying these are all possibilities we need to keep in mind. So, for example, we look at this. This is the Shanghai index. The index they use for China, and we can see that this is from 2000. In 2005, they had a massive, crazy run up to 2000 top in 2007, and a massive drop, and then we can see basically after this crazy run up, it has never made a new high, hasn't even come close. Now it's forming this massive, triangle. It's been supported along this triangle. If it bounces off here and breaks through, then that could be the start of a new bull run, essentially. How long has it been? Well, you could say that essentially between, say, 2008 to now, 2023, that's 15 years. 14 years, It's been going sideways in this range, Now the question is, does it break up or break down on this triangle? Despite what the media is telling you, basically things are actually, GDP is actually growing. They don't have much inflation over there, so they're actually still growing. So that's what I'm trying to show you guys, is essentially that markets don't always just go up. It can have these big, massive runs, and then it just goes sideways, a small run, and then sideways. Essentially, you could say this entire period was essentially a sideways consolidation, with the exception of this run up in 2015. So the Hong Kong stock index, for example, also it looks a little bit like the Australian stock market. I've showed comparisons of the Hong Kong index to Australian stock market in my Discord, and we can see that from 89 to now it's been on this trend line. Just broke recently, popped back up, but you could say that between now we're still around the same price as around, say, 06. 06 to now, 16 years, it's basically been in this range, We're now, kind of similar level to 06, For 16 years, it's gone sideways. What's next? Maybe it pops up again. For example, Brazil. Now, this is one crazy chart. Brazil, for example, made this, check this out, 20x run from 5 to 100 on the Brazilian ETF, 20x run in a matter of between 08 to 02. It was really 5.5 years, 20x run. If the index, if the national index, say like SP 500, runs up 20x, can you imagine what happened to the small mining stocks in Brazil, the small, property stocks in Brazil, and then massive crash? And then you could say basically it's been one big bear market from 2008 to 2016, hit bottom, and then 8 years bear market, and then sideways from 2016 to 2022 now, and then another 6 years of sideways market. And again, just like the Shanghai, Brazil is in this massive triangle as well, broke out here, went sideways. So it's been bear market, broke out here, bear market kind of ended, so now it's a sideways market, and now another massive triangle, It's tagged that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times now, and it's supported by this rising trend line. So the question is, it's bouncing around this area, around 27, 26. Look how many times, this area has been tested, So coming into 2023, does this support area around 24, 25 hold? And it bounces up, and then we'll see a new bull run, or does it break down? Essentially, I'm showing you guys stock charts from the SP 500 in its history, from China, from Hong Kong, from Australia, from Brazil. I'm trying to show you guys nothing goes up in a straight line forever, Nothing goes up in a straight line forever, even though, this is what the SP 500 looks like, we might come into a period of sideways consolidation, and it might have already started, or at least it might pull back to 2,900. I'm thinking those are bigger probabilities than stopping here around 3,400 and then going to another sort of all-time high. It depends on the Fed, but be prepared because of this, stagflation we've got. We could be seeing the same situation as we saw back in the 70s, right? We could be seeing, after a massive run up, we could be seeing some sort of sideways market for 5 to 10 years for the S&P 500. And if that is the case, then Bitcoin might not bottom around 15K. It might bottom lower, say 12, or even breaking 12 is possible. So be prepared for all those possibilities. I'll have more specific predictions on a monthly and weekly timeline when we get closer to that date, when we get closer and closer to, into 2023. So those are essentially the big things to keep in mind. With the US dollar, with 10-year interest rates, I won't touch too much into that because we've spoken about that quite a lot in the past. So overall, what I'm trying to tell everyone is Bitcoin and crypto had a massive run. When is going to be the next bull run? When is going to be the next bull run for crypto, for Bitcoin, for SP 500? For all of that, we need the Fed to pump again, right? And the Fed may not pump like the way it did in the past because of the way inflation is at right now. So there will still be big swings, right? Even though when it's in a range, there are still massive swings. We can still make money from that. But these kind of, going to the moon kind of bull runs are less likely in the future. I could be wrong. So keep your mind open. Be open-minded for other opportunities. Brazil, Vietnam, China, Hong Kong, stocks, property. Our objective is to get rich, not to basically bury ourselves into one asset only and say, I will only buy Bitcoin, or I will only buy Ethereum, or I will only buy Matic, or something, or some NFT. Essentially, we're trying to get rich here, and we're looking for opportunities right around the globe in every market possible. So just keep in mind, markets move in cycles, that things don't always just run up in a straight line. There are massive bull markets, and there are massive bear markets, which we are in right now for Bitcoin, and there are going to be periods where it consolidates and goes sideways for quite a while. Even then, we can still make money from those bounces, but obviously it's easier to look for a market that is just going to have a bull run for the next 3 to 5 years and just catch that wave and just hold it. Okay, thank you for all of your time. I'll catch you guys in the new year. This is Pablo He-Man signing out.